So that's good. Hello, listeners. Welcome back to LetsTok podcast. I'm your host, Saurabh Gupta. Today, I would like to ask a very thought provoking question, and I'll definitely let you know that why exactly we are heading towards it. Have you ever faced a moment in life where you have to choose between a continuing a kind of a comfortable path, taking some bold steps, which totally pivot or I would say a new direction in your life? How do you navigate with those cultural shocks and challenges? Comes with a great change. So you have to hold that thought as our guest today embodies the answers to those very questions filled with remarkable transformations and challenges. Meet Yuri Diogenes. His journey with a move from a vibrant culture of Brazil to the bustling life of Texas, United States. It started back in 2003, driven by the ambitions and the pursuit of American dream. Yuri threw himself with a determination that lead to a professional success, but also comes with a personal challenge, a steady accumulation of weight. It was a poignant moment with the youngest daughter, a realization that his weight was stopping him from enjoying some simple pleasure of life, like playing with her. And it served as Yuri's tipping point. From there, he embarked on a total transformative journey from obesity, cutting down to extraordinary 100 pounds, metamorphosing into a bodybuilder. And he just didn't transform. He triumphed. Gradually, he started participating in bodybuilding competition and eventually winning the first prize. Yuri's story doesn't stop here with his physical transformation. He's also senior executive in cybersecurity at Microsoft and an author, if I'm right, hold your breath, author of more than 30 influential books from technologies to self-help. He's a podcaster. He runs a podcast named Overcome, and also a faculty member at a prestigious university. I don't recall the name of the university. Once we get to know, I will ask him. So, Yuri, a man who embraces the challenge from a new life in Texas, turned into a stepping stone of success. And today, we are here to share, or I would say, understand how we can do the same. So please welcome on Let's Talk podcast the incredible Yuri Diogenes. Yuri, welcome to the show.
Hey, so Rob, thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Hey, not a problem. It's all my pleasure here. I was so excited and inspired by your journey. So let's get started here. There are a lot of people who have obesity issues in their life and for various reasons. And based on my research, you mentioned that one, and please correct me if I'm wrong anywhere, that it was because of your daughter that was one of the tipping point. You know that you have to transform. So, what are one of the most difficult things out of all the other things was in this transformation?
It's really hard to change your eating habits when you derail for so long, right? Because growing up in Brazil, I was an athlete. I used to play soccer. I had scholarship in high school um, for soccer, and it was actually when I started working with IT back in 1994 that I started derailing a little bit my habits. But the tipping point of really going down the hill, it was when I moved to US because the portions in US are big, very different from Brazil, and I was very focused on my career, so I was not really taking care of my eating habits. And it was amazing to be US. The eating, everything was so accessible, a lot of food. And I started building really bad habit, right? And so I gained 100 pounds mostly.
Hmm.
And it was also difficult because at that time I was working in CSS security on the second shift, which means that I was getting to the office around 1 p.m. And theoretically, I was supposed to leave 9 p.m. But the problem is that since I was escalation at that time, a lot of escalations from Europe coming in around 5 p.m. and we stay until later, and we would hand over to India for the third shift, right? But many times we couldn't hand over because it was a difficult issue. So it was very common to leave the office 10 o'clock, 11, sometimes at midnight. And when you leave at that late, there's nothing open other than fast food. So I started building this habit of eating fast food almost every day. So that really was bad to me. Uh, it's interesting because I always work out, and I'm the proof that it doesn't matter if you work out every day if you have a bad diet. So you cannot overcome bad habits just by working out, because nutrition is the number one thing that will keep you healthy, will keep you in shape. You can be in shape by only eating healthy, and the exercise come in second place for sure. But my eating habits were so bad, and this was the most difficult part. The difficult part was not going to the gym. That was fun. The difficult part was to really eating healthy and lowering the amount of calories, because I probably was doing 7,000 calories a day just with junk food. And I dropped by the time that I got a coach, Greg McCoy, and we started work on this vision, because you gotta remember I was 100 pounds more than I weighed, so I was almost 300 pounds. And my vision was I want to compete in the bodybuilding show. So we built this plan from 2011 to compete in 2014. So it was a 3 years plan, right?
Hmm.
So we started very aggressive. I dropped to 1,800 calories a day. And on the first 3 months, I lost 30 pounds because there was a lot of fat to lose. But the first 3 to 4 weeks were horrible. I mean, you think about those drug addicts when they stop drugs and they shake, they cry, they
Hmm.
have episodes of depression. I had all those symptoms in the first 3 weeks because I went very aggressive on my change. And I don't recommend everyone to go on this route unless you have a professional working with you. But to me, it was I needed that shock because I wanted to see results fast, and I did. First month, I lost 10 pounds, and I was losing 10 pounds a month. And I kept this rhythm for the first 1 year. So I lost 100 pounds in 1 year. And then it was time to work on the next 2 years in building muscle, because after losing all that fat, you have a lot of skin, and I didn't want to go to any surgery process. I actually didn't need to. Also, it was not really that bad, but I need to fulfill the space with muscle.
Hmm. That's that's great. I think lot to unwrap. So as you mentioned that you used to be the athlete, then the work comes and you start kind of having a bad diet. And one important thing which you mentioned, which is very sometimes being taken lightly, that you can eat whatever you want if you keep working out. I think nutrition is also important. Like sometimes we have seen people say that I can eat whatever and I can eat how much I can eat, but I try to balance it with working out or having some physical activity. So
Yeah,
as you mentioned
it
that
really
with
is. If
Mhm,
you have the mindset of I can eat whatever I want as long as I work out, it's not gonna
mhm,
play well. And I tried that.
mm,
Uh,
mhm,
you need to be in calories deficit basically
mhm.
for things to start working well. But I was not able to burn 7,000 calories a day, right? So I was always in surplus because I was
Yes.
eating more than I was burning. So of course I was going to gain weight.
So when you were reducing, obviously at that, so help us walk through. Like people say that I would like to have. I mean, my structure, the overall structure would be a regular person, or maybe I'll would like to be trim in that way. How you directly get into bodybuilding, is that something, because directly from obese to a bodybuilder? And before that, actually, let me just add this picture for the people to have a perspective. Look at him. I mean, this is what a transformation I can. And there's one more photo. I mean, wow, this is completely blew my mind when I saw this. This is a transformation. Is that something you envisioned? Or
Yes.
how exactly? This is a big leap, right? People say
Yeah.
that you go with the process. So can you help us walk through why
Well,
bodybuilding?
well, bodybuilding because, as I said, back in the day in Brazil,
Mhm.
growing up, I mean, the heroes from the '80s were all bodybuilders. If you think about Arnold Schwarzenegger, they all
Yes.
bodybuild, right? Stallone.
Hmm.
So I grew up with that atmosphere, and working out was something that I always done. And I had friends in Brazil that were competing at that time. But my focus was soccer. I didn't really have
Hmm.
the grit to go through a bodybuilding regiment, because it's not only about working out, it's about sleeping well, it's about eating well. So bodybuilding is way more than just a gym. It's a 24 hours sport. You have to watch everything that you do, that you eat. You have to measure every meal. You have to know the amount of protein. It's a lot of work, right? So I said to myself, I need a change that can bring me discipline. And since I knew a lot of people from my past experience that had that regimen, I immediately thought, well, bodybuild is what is going to give me this discipline, this methodical way to approach things. I need that discipline in my life. Uh, so that's why I went to that route, and a friend of mine introduced me to this coach. He was the person. We are still friends nowadays. We did many projects together, and he was the one that actually changed my whole life from that perspective.
Hmm. Yeah, I think what you mentioned is, and this is the highlighting part, is you have to get into a discipline. You chose bodybuilding based on the way how you grew up in Brazil. There may be any other sports which you can take, but I think it's very important to have a reason when you start something, because that really propels your overall behavior around it. So as you mentioned, that bodybuilding is a 24-hour sport, which is very profound, because then it's not like just 2 3 hours in the gym and come back. You have to sleep well. This is something which is again pretty much ignored by a lot of people. Sleeping is equally important from that perspective. So, so let's move on. So you did 3 years, and from what I got to know that you compete, and I think in 2 or 3 years you get to the first position. I mean, you came first in bodybuilding.
Yeah,
Uh,
it was interesting because my first competition, it is all about goals, right? So
yes.
you got to be realistic. That's why on my book Ready Set Achieve, I talk about smart goals. So you got to
Hmm.
be specific, and the goal must be tangible. Is needs something that you're gonna achieve. It's not a vision, it's a goal, right? So it's
Hmm.
something that needs to be achievable. So my goal at that time, when I stepped on stage in 2014 for the first time, was I just wanted to be there and be able to compete. That's all I want. I have no expectation on winning. I have no expectation on my placing. Well, guess what? I got last place. I was the last in the group of 14, I think. So I was last place, and I was fine because I didn't create the expectation that I was going to be top five, top three, winning. My goal was to be there. Now, when I left the stage, I immediately established a goal for the next year. I said I want to be on top three next year. So comes 2015, I got second,
Hmm.
and I was like, "Wow, that's awesome! Now I got a medal. That feeling is great. Next year I want to win." And then next year I won.
Wow. Well, so as you transform, were you also in the process of writing all these books which you have published?
Technical book, yes, because my first technical book that I released in US was the Forefront TMG Administrator Companion for Microsoft Press.
Hmm.
That was 2010. And between 2010 and 2015, I was releasing books almost every year for Microsoft Press in different technology, all related to security. But the Ready Set Achieve came to fruition in 2015. We published. I was working on that book for 1 year between 2014 and 15, writing with a co-author called her name is Jude Miller. She is a IFB pro, a professional
Hmm.
bodybuilder. So she has also some very interesting insights. We had this common project. I'm like, okay, let's publish this. So that was my first non technical book, Ready Set Achieve.
Great. So all these, so this is non-technical. You're putting a lot of technical books as well. Does your, I would say, the mindset which you have changed and you start developing some positive impacts in your body and you see some development also flows towards uh, writing more books and try to kind of achieve some
Oh,
things on that side of the reel?
yeah, absolutely. Because I tell this all the time. After losing 100 pounds, I was way more active. My mind was working better. I was not tired all the time like I used to be. I
Mhm.
was more focused. I had the discipline of getting things done. So it was really a good time. Between 2012 and 2014, I also did my master degree in cybersecurity from Eureka College. So I was
Mhm.
doing my master degree in cybersecurity. I was writing books. I was training. Um, and the only reason I could do all those things is because my mind was fresh, right? And I was really getting uh, to know myself in a much better way and how to be more productive. So my physical change had a direct impact at my work performance. Absolutely.
Great. So when people say I don't have time, what's your response on that?
Well, this is we try to convince ourselves this
Mm.
about this lie, and I say this lie is because if it is a priority to you, you're gonna make it happen. If I create a habit of waking up every day 4:30 or 5, it depends on the day, it depends on what time I went to sleep because
Mhm.
at least 6 hours of sleep, right? So as long as I have 6 hours of sleep, I will wake up 4:30 or 5, and that's where I get my first workout done, and I can have my breakfast after that, and then I start meetings early because I manage a team that mostly is in Europe, so I have
Mhm.
meetings early in the morning. But you have time. There is 24 hours. And if you start making the calculations, you have a lot of time that you waste just procrastinating. And when I say procrastinating, is really alternating between working and watching TV or just be on social media scrolling around and look at things. If you start
Mhm.
add up all that time, it'll be at least a couple of hours that you wasted without doing nothing productive.
Mhm.
So as long as you have the mindset of I want to be productive, I want to finish the day with a feeling of accomplishment. I got a lot of things done. Right. Of course, there will be days that you want to relax. Well, take a weekend, rest day. Don't train. Don't do anything and rest. But if you have 6 days of your week where you are extremely productive, you're gonna get a lot of things done. It's incredible when you start tracking your time precisely that you realize you have a lot of time that you just waste doing nothing.
Doing nothing. That's very well said. So you mentioned about procrastination, uh, and this is something, some common questions around that as well. How people can differentiate between procrastination and taking some calculative decisions, because sometimes they it tries to intertwine in certain situations. What's your perspective, like overthinking and procrastinating, or be very cautious, risk averse?
Yeah, so I think those are a little bit different. For example,
Mhm.
overthinking is can lead you to procrastination because you keep thinking about different scenarios, and you are on this analysis paralysis. Basically,
Yeah.
you do nothing because you are overthinking every single situation, and with that you waste time, time that you could be invested in something else, right? So overthink is a issue on its own, and it can happen in many scenarios. Some people are tend to overthink every single situation, even when you are giving feedback to someone start to think, well, what that really means. It start to create a lot of scenarios based on that. So overthink is a problem that you have to really be cautious about, and is not going to help you. Procrastination to me is basically wasting time. Is basically
Mm.
trying to convince yourself that you need to rest, that you deserve to stop and watch a movie, that you deserve to do nothing, right? I mean, you can have those moments that you want to rest, but if this becomes a norm, then you are basically procrastinating. You're not really doing something productive with your life. And then you have the next excuse: I don't have time.
Mm.
And you think you don't have time because you believe that you earn those space of doing nothing. I'm just gonna do nothing. And this is part of me earning that moment,
Mm.
right? So you need to be accountable for that. Accountability for your own time, and making the excuse that you don't have time is because you already convinced yourself that you need those buckets of times to rest. But rest when you sleep, rest one time a week. Be productive every single day. Do things, every single day that will lead you to your goal. Right now, for example, I'm doing a PhD in cybersecurity. I just finished writing my latest book, Cybersecurity Career. Um, I still training. I just competed next week in last weekend in jiu-jitsu. I train 3 times a day usually, early in the morning, at noon, and at night. And I continue to get things done. How is that? Well, because I really organize my time. And and the other thing that I also do is I avoid as much as possible to multitask, because
Mm.
task to me is also a waste of time. You believe you're doing multiple things, but you're not really focused doing things. So you get half things done. You really do not focus on quality because you try to do a lot of things. You're not focused. And we see this a lot nowadays. People are talking to you in a camera on a meeting, and they are writing an email to send to someone else. And then you ask,
Yes.
do you have any question? And the person like, oh, can you repeat, please? But yeah, you will
Yes.
not pay attention, right?
You're not there. So I think this is a very good point you mentioned. While you're saying that you are doing a lot of activities, at the same time, you are discouraging multitasking. So people might be confused. Would you like to explain the difference between doing multiple things and multitasking?
Doing multiple things is establishing a schedule. Establish a
Mm.
schedule from 5 to 7. I'm going to train, and when I'm training, I'm focused on what I need to get done on that train. Can I, for example, if I'm doing a cardio on a stairmaster or running or something, can I listen to some Audible? That's something that I do. Yeah, of course.
Mm.
Audible is I don't buy physical book anymore. I just buy Audibles. So I
Yeah.
do sometimes I listen to a lot of Audibles when I'm doing cardio. You are optimizing your time. It's not really a multitask because you are using your physical activity
Mhm.
and your brain is processing the information. So this can be done. You're not doing giving attention or writing something where theoretically you should be fully focused on writing, right? So schedule time. If I schedule time to be in this meeting, I need to be fully present because I need to pay attention. I need to provide feedback. I need to give insights, and I need to be with my camera on. I need to be engaged. Body language. Nowadays, we live on this whole online where we have a lot of live meetings. Be present is very important. So that's why I don't like multitask, because you're not fully present, and you can optimize your time as long as you have a good time management schedule of things that you want to accomplish. I love to use jiu-jitsu as an example, because
Mm.
when you are on the mats and you are rolling with your partner, if you are not there, fully, mentally and physically, he's gonna choke you and you're gonna pass out, right? So you need to be thinking about your defense, your attack, what you're gonna do. You're gonna be fully engaged, and that's why a lot of people, when they start training jiu-jitsu, they're like, "Wow, this is completely different from working out." Because working out, I can lift here and start wondering about my life. I can get my phone and start to text. You're not fully engaged. You are fully engaged during the movement of that exercise during 10 reps, and you disengage. You engage and you disengage. Martial arts, jiu-jitsu, judo, I do both. You cannot do that. You have to be 100% engaged.
And you got a second prize as well, right? You mentioned of the record in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I got second place last weekend at the IBJJF Dallas Open. It was really good because it was kind of my return. It was my first jiu-jitsu competition since my tricep surgery because I ruptured my triceps last year.
Mhm.
So I had to had a surgery in October. So that was my first tournament back after I felt I was fully healed and ready to go.
That's that's amazing. I think you are one of the examples. You're doing. I mean, PhD. I have heard a lot. It's very time intensive, and and as you rightly mentioned that you have to go with some kind of a meditation or mindfulness strategies, right? When you are in certain things, you have to give 100% focus, and that will transform in your other activities as well. Now you know that what exactly that 100% focus looks like, and then you can move it in your work, in your other activities. And everyone likes, like in the meeting, as you rightly mentioned, that if you try to multitask, and sometimes people even boast about it, that I'm pretty good in doing that, and they completely miss the point that focus is one of the I would say one of the precious gift you can give it to a human being when you
Exactly.
100% listen to them, whether it's your colleagues, your family, or for that matter.
And you would
So
never do this in a physical world. Imagine yourself in a
yeah,
conference room. A person is talking and you is on your phone. That would just be disrespectful, right? So
yes.
in a physical world, you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't multitask where someone is presenting. It's just rude. But people online, they do that.
Yeah. So let's talk a bit about you've been a part of the faculty member as well in some university. How that you got in? Is it something you stumbled upon, or you always wanted to be a
No, yeah,
TD?
that's a good question because when I left Brazil in 2003, I was a professor there as well. I was already teaching in university. So I was a consultant during the day and a
Mhm.
teacher at night, professor in a university. So moving to US, I always had that intention to go back to academia. That's why I went to the master degree in cybersecurity because I knew that the master will enable me to teach. So when I finished my master in 2014, coincidentally, I was invited to present at Hacker Halted 2014 in Atlanta. So I went there to present. And during that conference, EC Constant University, they had a booth there. They were talking about their bachelor's degree in cybersecurity, and they were looking for professors and everything. I said, "Look, I'm finished my master this year, 2014. So I would love to connect with you again next year when I finish. So see if there's an opportunity." And in 2015, we connected again, and they hired me, and I've been teaching with them since 2015. I love teaching. I got Professor of the Year 3 years in a row, 2018, 19, and 20. It was really honor to me because it was student choices. So I went to get my award in Atlanta during Hacker Halted as well. In 18 and 19 was a physical ceremony. In 20 was virtual because of COVID.
Hmm. That's amazing. So basically, whatever you are doing, you are just not doing it. You're excelling it in competitions, or you are just getting all these awards. So that's so inspiring to learn that it's just not doing different things. You are really achieving great heights when sometimes people just do only those things out there. And as you mentioned, it's just like scheduling your time, having 100% focus, and give. and then try to go from there. Now, as we go towards a kind of a tapering end of our conversation, what's next for you?
Well, next is finish this PhD, which is
Hmm.
theoretically scheduled to be done by 2025. So there
Hmm.
is still a lot of work to do. Uh, so that's an important step to me. Will also enable me to teach at master degree programs, because right now I teach at bachelor's degree, and to teach a master you need to have PhD. So this is one thing that will allow me to teach more classes and have a different perspective on students and having impact. The cybersecurity career book is something that was released last month, and after 1 month release, it got first place at Amazon Hot New Release.
Wow.
I also recorded an entire 3 hours course for Pearson on around this book, so it's almost like a mentorship
Hmm.
to join the cybersecurity career. The course is finalized. They are producing and should be out pretty soon, like 1 month or so. Um, I'm going to Brazil in September to be a keynote speaker at the Cybersecurity Summit Brazil. I went there last year to do that. I'm going again as a keynote. So these are the short to long term things. In sports, I have a couple of more competitions this year. At the end of this month, I'm going to Vegas for the World Championship in Jiu Jitsu. Will be my first time doing this tournament. It's a huge, the biggest one that they have. The federation has. I'm looking to another competition in November for judo competition, because I compete on both.
Hmm.
And it's really, these are some personal goals, but there's a lot of things, right? Because the
Hmm.
team that I manage has a lot of talent people, and to me nowadays as a manager, one of the things that I have a lot of fulfilling is to see them grow, is to you know empower them to do more and to grow in their career. So this is something that I'm very passionate about, is to make sure that people are achieving their best version. You know.
That's great. You have so many things already lined up. Before one thing again, I would like to ask: do you feel a time when you would like to unplug with everything? Because obviously you have so much of schedule here. I don't want to do anything here. I just want to relax or don't even think about anything.
Oh, I do that.
Uh-huh.
It's super important,
Hmm.
and I usually do that once a year to fully unplug.
Hmm.
My family and I, we have this tradition of taking at least 1 week a year to go to Europe. So, for
Hmm.
example, some months ago, no, last month actually, we went to Amsterdam, London, Dublin. So we took 1 week off. Is the week where I fully unplug from work,
Hmm.
and I just enjoy this time with them. Know to really learn about the culture on a different country, to try new food. This is the time of the year that I'm not really crazy about diet. I will try every single food. I will,
Hmm.
not have any restrictions in diet or anything, because it's another thing that I tell people is not
Hmm.
what you do once that will change your body composition, is what you do every single day. So if you have a consistency of 80% and you take 1 week off on vacation and you want to try foods, do it. Don't feel guilty, right? Because you cannot be so radical that you are traveling with a mindset, oh, I cannot eat this. Oh, no, no, not this, too much calories. No, just relax for 1 week. And that's fine. As long as when you come back, you resume your routine and you get back to it, that's fine. And the proof of that is that when I went to Europe on vacation and came back, I just gained 3 pounds. And 1 week after that, I already lost that 3 pounds. So not a big deal.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great thing, and I think one thing you we haven't discussed, because you have so many things to hear to discuss here about the music. I got to know, like, I was looking some other podcasts as well, that you are into music as well, because music is something very close to me as well. So, what kind of instrument you play? And I think your kids also are in music.
Yeah, I play drums.
Hmm.
The only type of music that I listen is metal.
Hmm. Okay.
I'm a huge Iron Maiden fan.
Hmm.
That's why I went. One of the reasons I went to London it was to watch Iron Maiden on this new tour that they were doing in Europe, Future Past tour. So I went with my whole family. They all like Maiden.
Hmm.
My oldest daughter, she sings. My youngest daughter, she also played drums. And she studied at School of Rock. So there is always, every 2 months, there is a gig that she plays.
Hmm.
This Sunday, right now, for example, she's going to play in a show. So we are all going. She is, well, she's much better than me on drums because she started with when she was 5. She's 14 now. So
Wow.
she's been playing drums for 9 years and playing very proper, learning songs the way it's supposed to learn. Where I learn by ear, and like, trying to do my best. But it's fun. I mean, drums is something that is super fun. It's something that I do usually on the weekends. I take 1 hour to learn some new songs, play. It's a way to distress. So I have a lot of things going on, and I think that this is super important because most of the people that I see getting burned out is because they are only thinking about work. And worse, a lot of people, their hobbies is to even work. I had a director of mine that he came to me and said, I'm feeling burned out. I said, well, what you doing on the weekends? He said, well, I like to play games on the computer. I said, man, you gotta get out.
Yes.
Turn off this computer on the weekend. Go
Yeah.
out, run, do something with your body. Create a habit of doing something completely different that you do during the week. Because if you are on the computer 24 hours and the entire week and the entire weekend, I mean, you're gonna burn out. There is no way that you're not.
Oh yes, such a great advice. Yeah, you have to. There should be variations in your activity. Even if you do the physical activity and similar kind of sports throughout the day, you will feel burnout as well. So
Yep.
you just have to have that variety to get those things done. That's a great. I think I could have gone. I mean, go longer and longer about getting all these different layers of onion to peel here. But let's get to the last part, which I generally ask is, what is one of the advice your mentors has given, which creates a profound impact on your life, or whenever you feel down, you always remember that particular piece of advice to bring you up.
Uh, this is interesting because,
Mhm.
yes, I did have a lot of mentors over the years, mainly at work. I think I missed, my personal side. I really didn't have a lot because my
Mhm.
father left the house when I was only 4. And growing up without a father, I didn't have that male figure to guide me through things. Although later on we reconnected, but I think it was
Mhm.
already too late.
Mhm.
I miss a good gap. So most of my experience of learning things were really trial and error. Um, so I really cannot recall something that someone told me
So
that really
what's your perspective then? Like, what are that one or two things which you always remember? And if someone say, just give me one or two things to get
well,
started.
one thing that I truly believe is that you need to preserve your brand. What I mean by that is, regardless of your state of mind, regardless of the state of your work, what you are passing through, you need to deliver with quality. And what I mean by that is, a lot of people, they expect other ones to motivate them. You have to have self motivation.
Mm.
Some people, I've seen many cases, mainly at work, of people say, well, I'm not receiving a lot of kudos. People are not saying that I'm doing a good job. I just don't feel like I've been appreciated. So I'm just going to slack off. Well, guess what? This is only gonna harm you,
Mm.
and you are harming yourself because you are expecting other people to acknowledge you so that you feel motivated. You gotta be self motivated. You are your own brand. Preserve it. Deliver with quality. Even if you are in a position where your manager is not appreciating you, there's a lot of other people that are partnering with you that if you deliver great quality, they will recognize your work.
Yes.
So you need to preserve your brand and you need to be self-motivated. You cannot wait for the people to motivate you, because if you only operate based on other people's motivation towards you, tap on the back, kudos, emails, is really a sentence to fail.
Amazing. Yeah. So self motivation and preserve your brand, give a top notch quality of work. I think these are the three things you're suggesting to the people, because you are if you're in the parking lot and waiting for some miracle to happen, that's not how life works.
Yeah.
And I also believe life is unfair, and it's unfair for a reason. So you cannot expect anything from your life. Ups and downs in there is just like the people who are resilient and have their own experiences like what you had. It keep on accumulating and have a snowball effect, that when you have a down, you have seen that there was a time when I was up, and I will recoil back much faster to get to that phase.
Yeah, and
uh,
sometimes you really have to go deep down the road of your worst moments to realize that. Because to me, one of my turning points was 2020 when I fractured my foot in a competition, and
Mhm.
I had to go to surgery, and I was 3 months without walk, without exercise. So it was one of the worst moments of my life, because I was in bed with my foot extended. I couldn't do anything, and it was like almost like I felt dead. Uh, so I almost start a moment of depression if it was not to me to really reattach with my religion and with some thoughts about how could I use that moment to learn something new. So I read a lot of Stoicism at that time, Marcus Aurelius, um, and and that's when I started the Overcome podcast, because I was like, well, what other athletes do when they pass through this? So
Mhm.
I started interviewing professional athletes, because I have a lot of Olympic friends that went to the Olympics. So I start with my friends that are on the field, and then I expanded. I interview a lot of other Olympic athletes, always with the subject: what do you do when you cannot perform? Or what are some of the things? So I start to learn a lot. So I see that downtime to me as one way that I gain a lot of knowledge. So you always have, even in your worst moments, you have to take out something good out of it.
Something good out of it. That's a great thought. You have to, and I think I recall one of the guests. He also mentioned that he was in a professional, I think, baseball. He had some physical injury, and then eventually he ended up founded a company. In while he was in a downtime, because he was trying to work out what is the benefit I can take out of it. And so I think what I would summarize one thought which I firmly believe, based on what you have explained so far, is the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So it's all about the mindset, irrespective of whatever the thing as you're doing, from the academia to your sports to music to everything. It's just like it flows through your mindset. And that's what I would like to part with this conversation. Yuri, thank you so much. Much more, I would say, sincerely motivated. There are something which I do procrastinate as well. I would like to admit, but with this conversation, I think I would try to take another step to move ahead. I'll wish you all the best for your future endeavors. For the people who would like to know more about Yuri's, I think I'll share his LinkedIn profile, Instagram profile, and the books. What you have published so far, for you to kind of have a look and learn from it. So Yuri, thank you again so much for your time, and have a blessed day and the time ahead.
Thank you very